I know the first burning question everybody has is, what in the heck do you know about open houses? You're a loan officer. So fair question, right? However, I will tell you, um, and y'all, most of you know me fairly well. I have been in coaching groups with realtors from all over the country, and open houses have always been one of those things I thought were very intriguing because there are some agents that live and die by them and get all of their leads from them. And then there's other agents that will tell me they do not work whatsoever. So it's like both extremes, very few in between. So we actually already started a little chit chat before we started the recording that some folks on here don't really like them a whole lot. Um, and that's fair, right? But if you could turn it into something that is generating income, we'd probably like them a little bit more than what we do right now, right? So I have talked to a lot of agents. I've actually put some feelers out over the last few days too to make sure what I'm going to cover today are things that they're tactics that people are really using and they're really working and they're seeing fruit from their labor of it. So, anyways, we're going to go over some of those things. I think a lot of times when a realtor more or less thinks of doing an open house, they're doing it because the seller may expect it or anticipate it, and and if that's the only reason you're doing it, then the results of it may not be all that good. The house, I think if we can reframe how we're thinking about open houses, though, the open house isn't the opportunity. The house itself is not the opportunity. The people walking through it are the opportunity. So how do you get people walking through it? Like the odds of you doing an open house and you doing it for the sole reason, if the sole reason is to sell that specific home, you may be disappointed with the results. But if the sole reason of doing the open house is to funnel your leads and to get more leads into your sales funnel, if you do it properly, I believe you can pick up a whole lot of leads and use this as a great marketing machine to fuel your leads going into the future. So, how do we change our thinking on it? How do we add some tactics that will produce real results when you do an open house? Because, the last thing I want to do, especially in the fall, if I were a realtor, the last thing I want to do is go do an open house on a Sunday afternoon when my football team is playing football. Like, I just like football too much. It's the last thing I would want to do. And I like college football. So I don't really want to do it on Saturdays either. Right. So, you know, but if I'm doing it and using it as a way to generate income, again, it's going to change my thinking about it. So open houses, I don't believe are selling the house. They're about meeting your next client. So let's reframe it along those lines. So if you're going to be successful in the open house, you've got to have real conversations with the people coming in. Open houses allow you to meet people or buyers early in their search. Neighbors, we're going to talk about this as a specific strategy. Neighbors who may sell later, and people who are just curious about what's going on with the market. The listing is the magnet, the conversations are the business. The listing is the magnet, the conversations are the business. If your goal is to sell the house, you're going to be disappointed. If your goal is to have conversations, every open house can be productive. It's just how you're framing it. All right. So let's go into some specific strategies. And everything I'm giving to you, again, I'm a loan officer. I've never done a realtor open house ever in my life because I'm not licensed to, but I've talked to successful agents that are getting a lot of business to see what they're doing. So, tactic number one, some specifically one agent I talked to in Texas intentionally waits until Friday before his listings hit the market. All right. I don't know if any of you've ever thought about having a specific day of the week before you go live with a listing, but he does this. He waits intentionally until Friday. Why does he do this? Because he wants to launch the listing with momentum. And I think a lot of times, I don't know the folks that are here, you may not be doing this, but I think a lot of times listings just kind of pop up silently and they just show up. Like he looks at the listing itself as a way to launch the marketing activity, but he's doing it not just to sell that home, he's doing it to get people interested in coming to the open house. So he does this with the intent of it's listing on Friday and he's doing an open house either Saturday or Sunday or both. So, I mean, it's immediate open house right out of the gate. Here's something else I've seen with a lot of agents that do open houses that I don't think works really well is they decide on Thursday they want to do an open house and they put some balloons out, some sign writers out in the neighborhood the day of, and maybe he'd throw a post on Facebook and there you go. That's the extent of the marketing effort. Like if you're going to go do an open house, you've got to have, it needs to be more strategic. It needs to be planned well in advance, and you need to have a system that you're following to get success from it. So, anyhow, he does this with launching listings on Friday, knowing well in advance that on that weekend he's going to do an open house behind it. Now, maybe you're a newer agent and you don't have any listings. Somebody in your office does, or you may can find out who in your office has got a coming soon and be able to work that so you can use their listing to obviously market and find some new buyers or people in the neighborhood that need to sell. Okay. So anyhow, this guy that I'm talking about though, he makes sure on Thursday that his photos are finished, his marketing is ready, his social media posts are scheduled and ready to go. And let's camp out there for 1 second. If you're just throwing on social media a day or two prior of the open house and you're not really being selective with who the social media post is going to, in other words, boosting an ad, you may not be hitting the people that you really want to hit. You may just be hitting the people that are looking that you're friends with and that are seeing your post because you're in their feed and they're in your feed. All right. So what he does use sponsored or boost his ads of the social media post of the open house. So he does target specific neighborhoods. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but you can definitely zero in around an address of who is most likely to see your open house boost or your post. Okay. Super easy to do. So he does that. And then Friday morning, the listing goes live. The marketing blast all begins on Friday. The weekend, he does an open house kickoff event, and this is his psychology for it. Buyers search for homes before planning their weekend tours. So when a listing hits Friday, it's fresh, it's getting attention, and the weekend traffic increases. Don't let your listing quietly appear on the market. You need to make sure that you're launching your listing. So the best listings, he told me this too. The best listings don't trickle into the market, they make an entrance. What a great way to think about that. Like, what a great marketing strategy. And this is something you could use too in a listing presentation when you're talking to people about how you're going to market their home. This is your strategy. But I loved his strategy of coming up with this. All right. So here's something else that I think, well, I know works really, really well. He does this. I've also talked to other agents that make this a habit as well too. And that is the neighbor strategy. All right. So, if you're doing an open house and the property is out in the woods and it's kind of a rural property, this is probably not going to work all that great. But if you're doing this, the open house is in smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood, this I think would be magic to get people into the home. All right. So here's the neighbor strategy. He does an exclusive open house to the neighborhood, separate of what the public knows about. So, for example, if he does a open house from 2 to 4 on a Sunday afternoon, from 1 to 2, it's exclusive for the neighbors. So, what he will also do if he's doing a Sunday open house on Friday when the listing goes live, He actually goes, this is where some of you may vomit a little bit when I tell you, but he actually goes door to door with all the homes in the neighborhood and delivers an invitation to the exclusive open house. Now, I'm just telling you, if you think like a consumer, okay, if my wife and I are not like we're not on the radar of thinking of buying or selling a home. However, should someone list their home in my neighborhood, do you think I'm interested in knowing what the price is going to be? Like, I want to know immediately. And what most consumers don't have a clue on is how much equity they have in their home. Most have no clue. Most, if they see an open house pop up in their neighborhood, they want to see how does their neighbor's house compare with theirs and what's it going to sell for or what's it being listed for. This is a magical opportunity to market to the neighbors in the neighborhood, but do something that's exclusive just to the neighbors around the home. All right. So this is something the first guy I was talking about will do, but he does this because he feels like it's going to help him find future sellers, people around the neighborhood. He also markets he sends the invitation to his referral sources. So it's exclusive to the neighborhood, but he also does it exclusive to his past clients. So they all get an invitation to come see him at this exclusive open house from 1 to 2 or whatever the time is you're going to do. All right. But you're also going to find people, like I said, that are curious about values in the neighborhood. You're also going to find people that are paying attention to what homes are selling for nearby. So buyers, I believe this, buyers come from the internet a lot of times, but listings come from the neighborhood of other listings. Okay. So you really, really need to make sure, I believe, you're marketing, if you think of taking a new listing, you're launching it instead of a silent listing, you're launching it into the market and you begin with an open house. I think that's really, really powerful. All right. So I mentioned he door knocks 20 to 40 homes nearby. And here's his script. I did ask him, like, what do you say? This is his script. Hi, I'm hosting a neighbor preview at 123 Main Street this Sunday from 12 to 1 before the public open house. We wanted to give the neighborhood first access. All right. He leaves them an invitation card. Um, and he also will make a post in, if there's a neighborhood Facebook group, he makes sure that he's on that. He also posts in that too to make sure that people in the neighborhood know they're welcome to come by. All right. He also said this. He had a lot of good little drop mic quotes that I wrote down. Curiosity is the best marketing tool in real estate. Curiosity is the best marketing tool in real estate. And again, if if there were a house coming up in my neighborhood and I'm not aware. I'm in the real estate business kind of like you are, not to the same degree, but I'm pretty much aware of how appreciation works. But again, most people aren't. If someone popped a home up for sale and it's about 100,000 to 200,000 more than what I think possibly my house might sell for, do you think I would be curious to find out now a little bit more about the value of my home? I'm just saying most people right now don't have a clue what the equity is they have in their home. And a lot of times, we're talking about 100,000 more than what most people have an idea for if they've been in the home for a little bit of time. They don't have a clue what real estate is selling for. So I think this is a great way to get them curious and to get them into your pipeline. All right. So what do you say to people that are coming into the neighborhood exclusive open home? He says, you avoid asking things like, are you thinking about selling? He said, that's a turnoff. Instead, reframe it. How long have you lived in the neighborhood? That's a great question. Now you get them talking and you're starting a conversation. Another great question. What do you love most about living in this neighborhood? Um, Later, he said he might ask, have you ever wondered what your home might sell for in today's market? If you'd ever like a quick value, I'm happy to send you one. Your goal is to not get a listing that day. It's simply to become the obvious choice when they do decide. All right. And I think when you take ownership of a neighborhood, like with an open house like this, and you're doing the exclusive open house to the neighbors and you're going door to door, you start building a relationship with these people. So, like if it were me, if I were going door to door in a neighborhood to invite people to my open house, if I had a kid to take, I would probably take a kid because it's a conversation starter, or I might walk a dog. That's also a conversation starter. But those are two things that people love that make it feel less awkward for me when I'm going up door knocking. Okay. It's also harder to shoot a person if they have a kid with them, right? So if you're walking in Franklin County, you definitely probably want to take somebody's kid with you, um, or or maybe a pit bull. Okay. And I live in Franklin County, so I'm just using it. I'm being the guinea pig here. I'm tattling on myself. But if you think you might get shot, those are just some ideas for you. All right. Um, all right. What do you say with buyers potentially coming into an open house? What you shouldn't say, just looking. Or I've been in an open house before where the first question was, are you represented by somebody? I don't even know what you're talking about. If I'm a consumer, like, I don't know what you mean, you know? So, great conversation starters could be things like, are you buying, selling, or are you just browsing today? Are you already working with an agent? Maybe later on in the conversation. If you moved, what would your timeline look like? All of those are some good conversation starters, but they will help you identify the motivation, if they are represented, what their urgency level is. Okay. The person asking the question, though, is the one that controls the conversation. That's true in your conversations you're having with potential buyers. It's also true in a marriage. So, some marriage advice for you, too. If you're the one asking the questions, you're the one controlling the conversation. Um, but curious questions can open doors. Closed questions usually end conversations. All right. So, just think on that. Um, I know people will often say things like, please sign in here. I'm always leery of signing stuff like that. I have signed like Daffy Duck before instead of my name. So, what are some ideas to actually get people to give you some of their information? You could say, possibly, instead of signing in here, things like, I can text you a few homes similar to this one. What number should I send that to? Now it feels a little bit more natural. And then you follow up. If they say yes, you need to make sure you're following it up within a couple of hours, not like 4 or 5 days later. Um, if you do get their number, you could text, great meeting you at the open house today. Want me to send you a few homes similar to this one? Thanks for coming by for the preview. If you like, I can send you a quick home value range on your home. So just some quick ways to make sure you're offering value to them and not just trying to get something back in return. I think that's the key point is you want to make sure you're offering value and you don't have commission breath and you're not just trying to get them to connect with you. You want to make sure you're giving something of value. All right. But the fortune in real estate is always in the follow-up. Always. And the mortgage industry too. That's where the fortune is made is in following up. All right. So those are some things I'm going to kind of end it there because I don't want to give you, I don't want to bore you. There's some things I pulled up too and researching what are some things realtors can do with open houses. There's things I wouldn't do. Again, they're not a huge, if we're treating it as if it's something we're just going to do kind of on the spur of the moment to appease a seller, I don't think the results are going to be all that great. And I think that's the danger a lot of realtors will do when it comes to thinking open houses. I'm doing this to appease the seller, try to get people in. But if you think of launching a listing with an open house out of the gate, I think there's power in that. Like that starts interesting me. It's part of your marketing plan and marketing strategy. Okay. The thought of being more intentional with it and planning it out so it's not just a spur of the moment kind of marketing event you're going to do, but it's more planned where you're maybe boosting some things on social media to promote it, where you're including the neighborhood in it. I think this is a huge opportunity to include the neighbors who are already curious what it's going to be listed for, and they're already curious what their neighbors did to the house, and they can go see it without feeling like they're being awkward with their neighbor, right? So you're just making it an event. And then whether you have cookies, whatever there, that's up to you. I don't know that you have to do a lot of those things. People just kind of want to know what the value is. I think sometimes we focus on the wrong things rather than focusing on giving people what they want. And that's answering your curious questions. Okay. But I would make this something where you're really going after the neighborhood when you're doing it. But also think of it as I'm launching a listing and we're going to start with this. All right. So, has anyone here done? I mean, we have a few more people now than we did when we first started. I asked the question in the very beginning, who has gotten a client from an open house? And when we first started this, no one raised their hand. Um, do we have any folks on this call now who have gotten clients from open house? So you'd like to share your story?
I will tell you that I was at an open house with Tony Lowe, who is on this call. And we did, in fact, as a realtor and lender, get a lead from an open house. He got the realtor side of the deal, and I got the lender side of the deal. So yes, indeed.
Okay, cool. How did you get people there?
Actually, I think he was posting on social media a little bit. We were kind of hanging outside the house in an area that gets decent amount of traffic, so I think that also helped pull people's attention. And we had a little bit of traffic throughout the day, but right at the end of the day, when we were about to pack up, these folks came just interested and started looking, and they're the ones that wound up buying the house.
I think the point is with all of it is if you're doing open houses without a system, you're really just holding the door open. Okay. But when you do them intentionally and you have a system behind it and a plan behind it, and I mean, I would just make it, if it were me, I would have a whole checklist of when I do an open house, here's the things that we're going to do to make it successful. 1 week out, 3 days out, 2 days out, 1 day out, the day of. Here's the checklist system of everything that happens. So it is a system that you can track, you can tweak if you feel like you need to tweak it. But I do think it's an opportunity, especially for agents that don't have a whole lot going on right now. So one thing that I used to be coached on as a loan officer was if I'm closing less than 10 loans a month, I had to go to 3 open houses a week. Now, I will tell you from a loan officer standpoint, I hate doing open houses and I don't feel right about barging in your show as a lender and trying to steal your thunder when you're trying to find buyers. And probably the last person you want to talk to is a lender. But a lot of loan officers do it, but they would do it when they what the point I'm trying to make is when there's a metric that's not being hit, an open house was a necessity when I was being coached. If you're not hitting the metrics to hit your goals, I would definitely be doing open houses as a realtor to try to get my leads up. And I think these are some brilliant ways to do it to add leads going into your sales funnel. So whether you like if you're super busy and you hate everything about open house, don't do it. But if you need business or if you're a new agent, I think this is a marvelous way to go out and find some leads and add them to your lead tracker and hopefully funnel to future paychecks, right? So that's what I would advise on it. Shannon said some lenders don't mind doing that at all. You mean just dropping in and stealing your thunder in the show? Um, don't we don't want to be those folks. Um, all right. Thank you all for joining today. I hope you got something from it, and maybe you'll give open houses another whirl if you haven't in the past and see what you think. Okay. All right. Hope you have a great rest of the week.